A report for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll all be back next week, and I'll be black. We'll all be back, though. It's not mine.
Yeah, we're just going somewhere else. I'm very sorry.
I'm like the king of tangents, so the fact that I have not taken us on a tangent this entire time, I'm like a little proud of myself. But
yeah, we're doing good. We're doing great, even though I've already broken the 12th wall of the experience.
What did you do this morning? Tell me how you started.
I've been recording a couple pieces of work for the past 6 hours. So I woke up really early, and I'm out in Chicago right now, so I've been like going like really far with these like morning walks. So that's kind of how it started. I went for a walk and then been recording for the past couple hours. It's not corny, but I just listen to the sounds of the city, and that helps me. It's very therapeutic just to have silence for a bit. So that's where I've been at.
So the first time we like met and began talking, you gave me a bit of a homework assignment, and which I really appreciated. I love to do some research, but you told me to watch Pinocchio 964.
Yeah.
And I truly think that watching this I would say it's cyber grunge, but it's also feels like an erotic fever dream. I haven't really watched something like this in a minute, and it truly opened my world. I became very obsessed, but I need to know why you wanted me to watch this film. Like,
it's funny because I was eating a brioche, right? And I was gonna say an Adam Sandler film or something deep like Minister Louis Farrakhan 10-hour speech. So I decided to go easy on you and give you this film called Pinocchio 964, which is directed by one of my favorite directors, Chosen Foucault. And I hope you enjoyed it. How was the experience? Did you have fun?
I did have fun. I was a little like nauseous during it, but it was tight. It was tight. Like, I think a scene that really stuck out to me was this subway scene.
The subway scene.
The subway scene.
Yeah.
The subway vomit scene was something where like I had to replay it 4 times because I was just so enthralled, but at the same time deeply grossed out.
Yeah, it's like ironically that film is I think it's his second best. It's an honorable mention, but his best film is Rubbers Lovers 1996, and the parallel about both of those films is one's black and white and one's in color. And the thing about Pinocchio, that color gives you a more in-depth aspect to it, so you can really feel the moment, and it's very intense. And I really feel like he transmuted heaven and hell in this one film, and it represents how people are caught up in this cybernetic realm now, to an extent, but most people are moving very machine-like. So I feel like he captures that aspect in such a grotesque manner that at first I was flabbergasted type shit. Like, I was very flabbergasted, but I admired him for that guerrilla style.
I feel like similar to Foucault, especially like with your work, you're not one to shy away from body horror, and you're also not one to shy away from being sort of like this imitation of being a cyborg, which is, I think, a character that you really embody in specific in your short film anthology, Du Motion Noir. You're starring as the main character, but you're also the writer-director. I see so much inspiration from Pinocchio, but for me, also, you being like a Black filmmaker, I feel like you take it in such a different world and direction. And so I'm so curious as to like how you navigate being on screen and also behind the camera when you're writing your films.
Yeah, well said. I think the biggest aspect when making a piece before I even actually execute shooting of any type of body of work, whatever realm it is, art, music, film, dance, everything's one big dance of life. We're all a bigger picture of God's image or whatever God is to whoever. But I feel like that important aspect of learning yourself and studying your reference points that's the biggest part to me, is humbling yourself and saying, hey, you have something great in your heart and your mind that you want to pour out on your sleeve with the work, but you got to study these other excellent legends first, because they've done it long before you were even here, in the physical essence at least. So that's a big important thing, is I'll go back and study all these different references from all types of walks of life, and then it embodies itself to an idea, and I'll script it down and say, okay. And the majority of the time, it'll stem from personal life experience. Like in 2008, I stayed in the Salvation Army shelter on the east side of Detroit when I was in 3rd grade, and I first started skateboarding during that time. But I had a PSP, and I watched this film called The Zeitgeist. And around that time, everything was very metal. The building inside was like a lunch hall. So everything was just very silvery and metal in a cold slab type of way. And it's funny because I'll use experiences like that from back then and that gritty Detroit reference to now in such a divinely guided way that I really just stemmed from my past experiences in life. Long story short. Yeah.
My bad.
Long but short.
Fuck. No fucking break. Fuck. My bad.
My healing is needed. Every day feels the same.
What I feel like makes you such a complex artist is this juxtaposition that you do between, like, a lot of this, like, really, like, grotesque imagery. But then, something you were just talking about is, like, also you're showing the grittiness of, like, the city in these, like, beautiful landscape shots. But at the same time, they feel like paintings. Like, I think, like, throughout the chaos in your films, and I think something that we were kind of, like, touching on before a little bit, too, is, like, it feels like this journey of rebirth.
Yeah.
And these landscape portraits, to me, create these moments of, like, solace where we kind of get to sit with, like, all the chaos that we just saw. You're talking about going on these walks throughout Chicago. You're talking about, really, being out in the city. I'm so curious what kind of brought on, in particular, like, editing in these, like, really beautiful, quiet shots that really, again, create such a beautiful moment of rest, like, within your work.
Yeah, well said again. The most important aspect, I think, or I feel, is really keeping quiet when it's time to keep quiet. And that could be just staying indoors. Like, when I first started working on Black Sheep, I had COVID, and I wrote the script, and then I ended up building the set in maybe about 10 hours each day. During around the end of the film, I went to Chicago in the autumn of 2022. I was there for about a month, and I just wore this suit every single day, and strictly wore this suit and had my tripod with me and my camera, and literally was on the go, just out and about. And those were like the quiet moments, because when I was in the world of the actual film and my sets, I had to be in that. I had to embody the essence of this character, and I had to tap into that spirit of how would this person feel or think, because it's Edward, it's not Tim Burton, and that's a reference point as far as a directorial to character standpoint. So I really had to step up outside of myself. But this character is really internal. It's an essence internally inside of me that I just embodied. And I really made sure that when I shot outside, it was completely different than the world of the character, because it was really just a reality of what Jalen was viewing in nature.
These two very complex sides of one character that you're embodying is that shot with the beetles crawling over the models' faces. Like, I'm so obsessed with those shots. Like, such a beautiful cinematic gesture of like showing something really grotesque, and yet like it felt like a commentary on like maybe, and you tell me if I'm like digging too far, if I'm reading too much into it, but like to me it felt like a commentary on like how we're kind of really obsessed with beauty right now, and we're in such like a, I don't know, like we're in such a superficial era, in particular with like our generation, that shot just felt so post-punk to me. It just felt like I don't give a fuck. Like, who the fuck cares about that this like really beautiful picture of this like person is on this cover, like these beetles are taking over and like almost like eroding it. Like, I'm so curious as to like how that started. Where did you get the Beatles from? Like, I want to just kind of be in your mind for a little bit for that particular shot.
Yeah, I really like your take. And you pretty much hit the spot with that essence as far as the beauty standard. And as I feel like every being is beautiful in whatever way that means to them and to the world. But I did want to capture an image of what I felt like was a standard being pushed on the masses in reverse. So it might not even be about the image on the back, but what's over that beautiful image is what's being pushed on the masses. But it's both duality with everything, and that's why I'm glad you took that take, because that's what it truly was about. It's just that beauty standard throughout the whole film of what is beautiful. To me, I learned transmuting life experience from a very young age. So the most hellish things became very heavenly to me, because I learned how to appreciate the ability to even appreciate. And I try to capture that with images like that. Because I used to have the faintest heart when I was younger. And I think when I saw how ruthless the world can be, it created this beautiful image of sternness with visuals. And I try to represent that with my work, because it can be just as stern or off-putting to someone else, but if they know that reference point, it truly is a vulnerable, beautiful thing.
When I first saw your film, I watched it and I just was like, oh, he's sensitive. There's like a certain type of like tenderness and like, I think fragility that you also play with like your masculinity that I think is like really refreshing as well. There's such like a need to kind of perform a certain type of monolithic Black masculinity, and there's something that you do that is just giving full rejection of that. Like, whatever expectations you came in with, like watching you completely shut that down within like 20 seconds of your film.
It's funny because you said that, and this is a main bar, but the best reference to that statement is on Dead or Alive, the first track on my album, Lark Voorhees. I said, your preconceptions projected are spine-tinglessly rejected. And I feel like, yeah, I'm constantly trying to reject any preconceptions. And as long as you feel comfortable in yourself as a whatever being you like to interpret yourself as, I feel like it's completely fine to be against the grain of that, especially as a black man from Detroit. You know, they wanted me to be over masculine, or in the art game, people wanted me to be more feminine. But I feel like we exude these things daily, and as long as there's a balance with that, it can shock others because it's either one or the other, especially with work. You know, you have to do things a certain way or speak a certain way. Like, no. Like, you know, I think, and that's where it comes with the universal image of all with my work, is it can be everything. You can have a bit of every type of influence, no matter where you're from or who you are, and fully stand in that and stand 10 toes on that and be confident with yourself. And it can be completely against everybody, but you still feel like you're everybody. So it's like I can go against everybody, but that's only because I feel like everybody. But to not feel accepted like that is what makes you realize, oh, you're not like everybody, and that's completely fine. Stand on that. And most people don't. Most people don't want to stand. They'll rather fall or get in line in the crowd with everybody, and deep down they're heartbroken for the rest of their life because they're portraying a role who they're not. And I think, yeah, that's the important thing, is just being yourself, like, and not being afraid of being excluded, because if it was divinely guided for you to be there at that time and place, it would have happened. No man can stop anything, like, even if it appears that way in this physical way, you know. So I think that is the biggest thing. Just own up to yourself, look in the image, like what you see, or if you don't, do something about it. If you can't change your situation, you can change your outlook on it. That outlook changes your situation. And I think that's constantly what I'm doing with my sexuality internally, just as a man out and about. I don't even feel like a man or a woman or anything. I just feel like a being of light internally. So maybe other people need to see themselves as that, and that's how they can get comfortable. It's just look at yourself like a light with a little bit of clouds around it also. It's a balance. And yeah, try to swat away the moths.
Her portrait in...
Everything said needs to be true, but everything true needs to be said.